Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Now, with the new year, there have been dozens of articles, pieces, commentaries looking back on China in 2024 or discussing what to expect with China in 2025. Some of these commentaries have been very good, others not so much. This week, rather than doing the regular news-style updates on China Update, I wanted to present some of the best of these commentaries. We will return to regular-style episodes next week. At the beginning of this week, I did my own review of 2024, using benchmarks that I'd set at the beginning of the year to look at how the government had performed in regards to the economy. Yesterday, we began the episode by unpacking a great Wall Street Journal piece on the economy. For today, I wanted to look at one more excellent piece published this week by the folks at the US-based Rhodium group. In my view, these analysts are some of the best in the game when it comes to understanding the Chinese financial system and economy. The piece from Rhodium this week is called After the Fall, China's Economy in 2025, which argues that China's GDP growth in 2024 improved modestly to around 2.4 to 2.8%, well below what Beijing officially claimed it was, that is 5%. That the economy is much smaller than Beijing claims, and that looks forward to 2025 and what to expect from the economy this year. The entire report is long, but well worth a read. For our purposes here, I wanted to use this video to examine several selected excerpts from the report. Regular viewers will notice themes and developments which we have been covering for some time now. With that said, we now move into different parts of the report, and we now quote selected excerpts of it directly. China's 2024 claim that GDP growth was on track to meet high targets was impossible to reconcile with increasingly frantic efforts to prop up a flagging economy all year long. Collapsing property construction slowed growth to a crawl in 2022 and 2023, and in 2024 the spillover from the real estate sidelined local government investment and consumption as well. By our estimates, China's GDP growth in 2024 improved modestly to around 2.4% to 2.8%, well below than official claims of nearly 5%. If it stimulates domestic demand with some urgency and ramps up debt, we think China could get 3 to 4.5% growth in 2025, reaching the high end of that range only if everything falls in Beijing's favor. But that is the very top of, or above, the potential growth ceiling until Beijing fixes long-festering structural problems. The difference between analyzing China and any other economy in the world is the implicit authority bias in China's official data. Authority bias is now central to the global discussion of China's slowdown. The most obvious disconnect is between China's macroeconomic data and Beijing's policy actions. Officially, China's real GDP growth slowed only modestly from pre-pandemic levels in 2022, then rebounded to 5.2% growth in 2023, in line with the annual target. But the reality of the slowdown is clear, particularly in price data. China has fallen far short of its nominal GDP growth target in the past 2 years, 4.6% versus a 6.9% target in 2023, and 4.1% versus a 7.4% target so far in 2024. The key question for the rest of us is, when does the authority bias of China's official data distort our perception of how China's growth affects the global economy? We think we passed that point long ago. As we argued in 2022, 2023, and earlier last year, China's property and local government-driven slowdown has been far more severe than implied in official data, and this is harming global interests. Chinese economists we've spoken to agree with virtually all the facts in this critique, if not the implications of them. Some argue that GDP growth has been overstated by 3 percentage points for each of the past 3 years, which suggests that the overall size of China's economy is around 10% smaller, or $1.7 trillion than official data imply. The report then discusses its 2024 review of the Chinese economy in detail. We already did a similar exploration on Tuesday of this week, so we will skip over that part and move to their discussion of 2025. But just quickly, if you're getting some value from this or this week's episodes of China Update, don't forget to hit the like button. Liking, sharing, and subscribing is a tremendous help for the channel. It is the only way in which it can grow and be shown to new people. Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are also in the description below for those who want to help keep China Update financially sustainable. It is just me making these episodes, research, writing, recording, editing, uploading, managing. It's all just me, and I try to keep regular episodes open and free 6 days a week, and I hope to continue doing these episodes all the way through 2025. Thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. Now we continue to quote selected excerpts from the document directly. Investment. After a steep decline in property investment since 2021, there is a strong case that construction activity will stabilize in 2025. New starts are now down 68% from their peak levels, below our estimates for long-term equilibrium demand in the sector. Local government infrastructure investment is likely to stabilize as well, given more aggressive fiscal spending and a reported expansion of special treasury bond issuance. Overall, we would argue that investment is likely to stabilize and contribute positively to growth in 2025, expanding 2 to 3% in real terms, thus contributing around 0.5 to 1 percentage points to GDP growth. Government consumption. Government spending should contribute more to growth in 2025. The government has promised a stronger fiscal impulse, and there are reports of a fiscal deficit target of 4% in 2025, up from the initial 2024 target of 3%. China's fiscal system will remain constrained by weak revenue growth. China's tax system is heavily tilted toward industrial production, with the general budget delivering approximately 60% of revenues from corporate income and VAT taxes. During the past 12 months, total tax revenue declined by 3.3%, or 600 billion RMB, as deflationary pressure and weaker industrial output have eroded tax income. Land sales revenues, which have been the largest constraint on local governments' finances over the past 2.5 years, are likely to stabilize but cannot return to past levels of growth. Put together, government spending will be supported by the larger fiscal deficit, a substantial increase in special treasury bonds, stabilizing land sales, and a reduction in interest rates. But this contribution will be capped by continued weakness in tax revenues. Cumulatively, these changes in government finances will result in around 0.5 to 1 percentage point contribution to GDP. Household consumption. After years of disregard, boosting household consumption was the top message at the December 2024 Central Economic Work Conference. Yet despite this focus, consumption faces headwinds. Policymakers are framing local government debt programs as promoting household consumption. The logic being that by increasing social services spending and thus reducing the need for precautionary savings, households will spend more. However, the scope of these programs is so limited that the impact on social services spending is likely to be small. The multi-year process of household deleveraging is also not yet finished. Households are likely to continue paying down mortgage and credit card balances, reducing the potential for more real economy spending. While we expect property price stabilization, households have endured profound negative wealth effects from the real estate crisis, and fragile labor market conditions weigh on consumer confidence. On balance, we project household consumption growth of between 3.5 to 4.5% in 2025, corresponding to a growth contribution of around 1.5 to 2 percentage points of GDP. Net exports. China's trade outlook in 2025 is deeply uncertain. First is US tariffs. Though Trump has talked about a 60% tariff on all Chinese goods, the scope, timing, and enforcement capacity are unclear. Second is China's response. Beijing's most likely response to US tariffs will be to allow the yuan to depreciate, partially, though not completely, offsetting the impact of tariffs. China may also retaliate with its own tariffs on US imports and export restrictions on critical inputs like graphite. On the macroeconomic level, these moves will not move the needle much. Any agricultural imports China doesn't buy from the US will come from other trading partners. and critical inputs like gallium and germanium account for a tiny fraction of China's overall exports. The biggest source of uncertainty is how the rest of the world responds. US tariffs on China's exports will cause Chinese exporters to seek markets elsewhere. If China's trading partners do nothing, China's volume of exports will be mostly unchanged, with the US importing less and other countries importing more. If global markets remain open to China, growth in China's record high trade surplus, which determines whether net exports is a driver or a drag on GDP growth, is likely to be small but positive, contributing perhaps around 0.5 percentage points. The spike in China's trade surplus in 2024 was largely the result of weak domestic demand. Government efforts to promote consumption and infrastructure investment and the bottoming out of the property sector will likely slow the pace of export growth and somewhat boost imports. However, China's trading partners are unlikely to stand by as sustained Chinese industrial overcapacity and a weaker RMB threaten their own industries, especially if US tariffs push Chinese exports their way instead. Here ends the direct quote of this part of the report, and let's just move to some of the concluding remarks. Quote, 2024 was a turning point in the narratives around China's economy. Faced with collapsing credibility, even among Chinese economists, and increasingly unviable talking points claiming that everything was on track, Beijing conceded late in the year that it needed to use all the tools available to support domestic consumption. This was too late to salvage results for 2024. Though once again Beijing will claim to have hit its targets, and the IMF and other organizations will flinch from questioning that, still, China's policy stance is clearly changing. The action pledged so far involves short-term counter-cyclical support and is likely to boost growth from the 2 to 3% range in 2024 to the 3 to 4% range in 2025, perhaps even as high as 4.5%, if everything goes Beijing's way. But a cyclical 2025 improvement should not be mistaken as a long-term recovery. Overinvestment in manufacturing remains a serious challenge, one that will make China's trading relationship more fraught in 2025, and rebalancing towards a consumption-led economy will require much deeper economic liberalization. End quote. The report and its authors are thus saying, best case scenario for Beijing, with everything going right, is that China will see 3 to 4.5% growth this year. However, this will not be sustainable, it will not be part of the structural improvements that need to be made, and it will be driven, once again, by surging debt levels. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought of some of the observations made by the Rhodium Group team in this report. I'd very much like to hear what your own thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Have a good Friday, have a restful weekend, and I will see you all tomorrow.